started, I will be using 1.5 cups of all-purpose flour. I'm also going to be adding 1 teaspoon of salt and 2 teaspoons of baking powder. I'm going to sift this through my mesh sieve and give it a good mix. Okay, so now that that is combined well, I'm going to set it aside and work on my wet ingredients. To start off my wet ingredients, I am going to crack 2 large eggs in my bowl. Now you could crack these on the side so you don't get shells in the bowl, but this is just what I do when I'm in a hurry. By the way, these eggs are room temperature. Room temperature ingredients seem to cream a lot better. Okay, so next I'm going to be adding sugar. And the recipe that I use in this video, I'm using substitutions as opposed to my original recipe. So I'll put both in the description below. Here I've just added 3/4 cup of sugar. Typically I add 1 cup. Now I'm also going to be adding a 1/3 cup of oil. And again, I am using substitutions for the milk and the sugar that I normally use. And here's the other substitution: vanilla Greek yogurt. I normally add just 1 cup of milk, 1 cup of sugar, and vanilla extract, but I needed to use my vanilla Greek yogurt, and it's sweetened and it's also flavored with vanilla, so I adjusted my sugar and I'm not adding vanilla extract. Again, I will be putting both recipes in the description below. So in with 1 cup of vanilla flavored Greek yogurt. Now I'm going to be adding lemon zest. I will be adding 1 tablespoon of lemon zest, and the rest I am going to reserve for my icing later. And I'm just sort of eyeballing my tablespoon here. Again, I am reserving the rest of this for the icing to this cake. So now that I've added those ingredients, I am just going to whisk them and cream them together until they are well combined. Again, I let the Greek yogurt sit out for like 5 minutes just to get the chill off. The eggs were room temperature, so it does help cream these ingredients together. By the way, if you don't want to use oil in this cake and you want to use butter, I would suggest 1 stick of softened butter in this recipe. And that's if you just don't want to use oil or don't have it. So that's another substitution. So now I'm going in with my dry ingredients. I'm going to mix and combine everything well. By the way, you want to preheat your oven to 350 degrees before you start this. Okay, so this is mixed well. Now I'm ready to pour this into my prepared cake pan. I'm using a 9-inch cake pan. I've lightly oiled, floured. I even put a scrap piece of parchment paper that needed to be used. It's kind of misshapen, but it'll do the job. Just make sure that the cake comes out. So now I'm just going to pour this into my cake pan. By the way, if you don't have a 9-inch, you can most definitely use an 8-inch. It will give you a taller cake. Not much taller, but it'll be taller than the 9-inch, and you can adjust the cook time. Okay, so once everything is in, I'm just going to tap it on the counter, make sure everything is even in the pan, and just to make sure any air bubbles come up to the surface. Okay, so now that that is done, I will be baking this in a preheated oven at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for around 23 to 25 minutes or until a toothpick comes out clean in the center. By the way, using Greek yogurt actually makes the cake a little extra moist, so if there's any crumbs on the toothpick, that's okay, just as long as it's not raw batter. Okay, so on to my icing. Here I have 2 cups of powdered sugar. I'm also going to be using the remainder of the lemon zest. Now I'm going to gradually add the juice of a lemon until I get the consistency that I'm looking for. Ultimately, I started with a 1/4 cup of lemon juice, and that's pretty much what I used to get a nice smooth icing. So probably a tablespoon at a time is the safest way to do this, because if you add too much, then you're not going to get a thick consistency. It might thin out too much, so you got to be careful with that. So I would do a tablespoon at a time. I think I probably could have scaled back from a 1/4 cup of lemon juice and it would have probably been perfect, but that's the way it goes sometimes. So just make sure you're doing it at a tablespoon at a time of the fresh squeezed juice. And this probably could have used a little less lemon juice, but I'm going to go with it. I think it'll work out just fine. Okay, so the cake is done and I'm going to allow it to cool for at least 15 minutes. I actually do want the cake to stay slightly warm because that'll just let all the icing kind of drip to the sides. I really don't like to perfectly cover the whole cake with icing. I like it to have just a little bit of the cake peeking through the icing where it drips off the sides. Again, probably you want to let it cool for about 15 minutes, and if it's just slightly room temperature, has a little warmth to it, that's fine. That'll help the icing spread. At least that's what I like. You do what you like, but I like when the icing spreads all over the place. Okay, so I went ahead and put it on my cake platter. I just kind of flipped it out and put it back on the cake platter. And again, I think I could have let it cool just a little bit more, but it's fine. We actually they like to scoop up the icing on the side. You could also put parchment paper under your cake platter so it doesn't have spilled or drips anywhere to kind of give it more of a uniform look. But we actually like that. My husband and Dax like to fight over the extra icing on the bottom of the cake platter. So pour it right in the center and just let it drip. And if you find that it's not dripping the way you want it, just kind of help it along. But this cake is so easy to make and it goes perfect with coffee or tea. Now once you've iced it, you want to let it set for 15 minutes. Yes, you want to set it again because the icing is going to get a little bit hard. I don't know, it's not really hard icing, but it does set a lot better. So you want to let it just hang out for another 15 minutes before serving. So my cake has set and I'm ready to serve. As you can see, all that extra icing pooled at the bottom of the cake onto the cake platter. That's okay. That's just extra sweetness for your slice of cake. You want to scrape it up and just dollop it right onto the cake slice. I hope you give this recipe a try. I hope you like it, and thanks for watching.